I raise my hand and I ask the question, how would you apply this to your hypnosis business? Or what are the ways that you've specifically done this yourself? And the answer that he gave kind of became the origin story to now what this Work Smart Hypnosis podcast is about. Because he answered, I don't know. I've never actually done this myself. Hypnosis helps people take back control of their lives. But here's the thing. Too many hypnotists struggle to get consistent results with their clients or grow their hypnosis businesses. I'm Jason Linett, and after more than 2 decades of building a thriving hypnosis practice, I created this podcast to help you do the same. Whether you're just starting your hypnosis journey or if you're ready to scale your business to the next level, you're exactly where you need to be. Welcome to Work Smart Hypnosis. As soon as I got the answer to my question, at least I waited. At least I waited for a polite moment to then walk out of the room and then leave this workshop altogether. Now, as hypnotists, the story that I'm about to share with you is one that I feel kind of best illustrates what needs to change for you and I when it comes to grow our hypnosis businesses, especially where to focus our attention and to ask ourselves what is important. Now, stick with me on one point of this here, though, which is that for this story, it doesn't matter what the specific method was, and it really doesn't matter which hypnosis conference this happened at. If you try to guess, I'm not going to answer, but it's about 2009 or 2010, and I'm in this stage early enough in my career that, well, do you know that experience where you find yourself moving forward in your goals, and you kind of hit this sort of sticking point, and you realize that you've gone as far as you can on your own. And to get to the next level, you're going to need to reach out to other people. You're going to need support from them. You're going to need just better resources, better information. And that's where I was at this point in my journey. So there's a specific thing, though, that I wanted to learn. And as luck would have it, I go to this conference. And at this convention, somebody is doing a presentation on this method. Perfect. I'm there. I've circled it in my schedule. I'm sitting in the first couple of rows. I'm at this event. And have you had that experience where somebody's teaching something and it's not quite this. It's not quite that it feels like they are intentionally leaving something out. Instead, though, it feels like the whole basic understanding of what they're presenting is just completely missing. Well, that's what I was going through here because he was teaching this method and everything was being shared from the position of these bigger picture hypotheticals and 30,000 foot view concepts. And even when he dipped down into specifics, none of the specifics were about what would be something applicable for a hypnosis business. Here's what a nutritionist could do. Here's what an accountant could do. So when there was an appropriate moment, I raised my hand and I asked the question, how would you apply this to your hypnosis business? Or what are the ways that you've specifically done this yourself? And the answer that he gave kind of became the origin story to now what this Work Smart Hypnosis podcast is about. Because he answered, I don't know. I've never actually done this myself. And to his credit, he explained his position to go, I've been wanting to do this for a while. And so the more that I've been learning about it, I decided to put in an application to speak about this technique at this event. They accepted it, and I'm really excited to share what I've learned so far. But did you catch the key thing there? He was teaching a thing that he had not yet done himself, and that is dangerous. I'm Jason Linett, and welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast. I'm on a mission to help grow this hypnosis profession, and the number one thing that's going to make that happen better than anything else is to have more of us out there thriving in our hypnosis businesses and helping more clients. Now, for some of you, you've been long-term listeners of this program because episode number 1 of this show originally launched back in June of 2014. And I'm going to come back to that here in a few moments. And then a few of you here may be brand new because you might be discovering this program for the first time. And that might be partly my fault because the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast recently took a very extended pause. For a number of years, this went out on every single Thursday on schedule, and I'd have episodes pre-recorded well in advance on schedule. Every Thursday, the show would come out. I mean, this is session number 444. So I've been at this for a while. Now, there's one turning point a couple of years ago where I was listening to somebody else's podcast, and I heard them say something that I didn't know was an option. That she said on her show, well, that wraps up season 4. We'll be back here in September with season 5, and I'm excited to share these updates with you. She was saying this in May of that year. So May, June, July, August, September. She was about to take like 4 months off, and I didn't know that was an option. So that was a turning point a couple of years ago where I intentionally put some pauses, though behind the scenes, the short version of the story is, well, 3 points. Life happens, health happens, business happens, and maybe this is a little spin on another thing that I classically say, that just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to do it for the rest of your life. Or let's update that. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should shut yourself off to experimenting and trying new things. And really, that's the bigger answer as to why we've given this podcast a bit of a pause over the years, because, well, I've tested different strategies, I've experimented with other things, and the more that I've played with other ways of sharing what it is that I have to say, I keep coming back to relaunch the podcast. So here we are, Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast session number 444. For those of you that I haven't yet met, let me give you the shortest version of my background that I can share with you, which is really that I'm somebody who's done a little bit of everything in this hypnosis industry. My first introduction to hypnosis and where I first began was stage hypnosis. I did several hundred programs, primarily for high schools, colleges, corporate groups. As I was then doing that, I kind of had this sort of intention inside to go, this is really cool, but I'm still not quite sure how it works. So I was the person taking a hypnotherapy certification training with zero intention of ever seeing a client, to then eventually open up what became the Virginia Hypnosis Company. Now, I now live in Orlando, Florida. Someone else now runs Virginia Hypnosis, but it's in this journey of doing stage programs, scaling that down to then launch Virginia Hypnosis, seeing my own clients, to then start to think bigger and begin to do corporate wellness programs, which then along that time is when this program and my training company, Work Smart Hypnosis, officially launched. So since then, also taking the message of hypnosis to larger audiences. I've done a TED Talk, I put out a best-selling book, eventually opening up my other company, Attract Pre-Sold Clients. And I share all of this not for any sort of bragging rights or pat on the back, but just look to me as a resource, as somebody who's done a little bit of everything inside of this profession. Now, the update in the last couple of years is that now I live in Orlando, Florida. I've seen thousands of clients in person, and ever since I moved, I now do everything online. I'm sitting here in my home office speaking to all of you. And it's in this time I've also, as I mentioned, built a second business. Now, I'm going to take everything that I'm saying right now and unpack it, though, into actionable strategies for all of you. For the sake of explaining this, there's 2 companies that I now run. Work Smart Hypnosis. This is my hypnosis training company. That's this podcast. These are my educational resources and business training resources. Then, in the last couple of years, we also launched Attract Pre-Sold Clients. This is the side of my world where I do private consulting, sales and linguistics training, sales psychology. This also now is the home for my done for you, done with you website and funnel building projects. And to put it simply, some of the people in the hypnosis community have also followed me over to Attract Pre-Sold Clients. However, Attract Pre-Sold Clients is a separate company because it also serves many people who are not hypnotists. I've worked with people in other industries. This is the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast, and we're back. And the pause really was also for a couple of other reasons. I knew that the tone of this program and the delivery of it had to change. It's 2026 as I'm recording this. This session is rolling out in January of 2026. I think it was March 2025 that the last episode came out before this one. The tone of our world has shifted. The tone of our hypnosis industry has shifted. The way that we learn, the way that we communicate with each other, so many things changed, And I knew that keeping up the same Work Smart Hypnosis podcast really wasn't the right strategy. So there was a pause before. I came back, did a few episodes in 2025. It didn't feel right. I knew something had to shift, and we've dialed it in, and I'm excited to be back here with all of you. So after taking this break for almost a year, we'll just call it a year at this point, the biggest change to this program can be summed up with just one word: more. The podcast, again, traditionally released on Thursdays, and it will still release on Thursdays. But now, it's also going to come to you on Mondays with a special Make It Rain Monday edition. Make it rain. This is our slang term for making money. I carefully caution you, if you go to Google or YouTube and do a search for Make It Rain, that term most often applies to something very different than hypnotists running their businesses. But for me, I have claimed it for my own. This is Make It Rain Monday, and it's okay if you listen to this on a day other than Monday. On these Monday sessions, I'm going to be sharing with you a specific business strategy in a rapid fire session so that this way now you can get your week started with strategies that have actually been proven to work. You can start your week off with things that I've actually done myself, methods that I've actually proven to work. This way now, you have the right focus on exactly what to do and what to focus on so that now growing your hypnosis business becomes easier than ever before. Now, let me point something out here. A moment ago, I said that these Make It Rain Monday episodes, they're going to be rapid fire. They're going to be direct and to the point. And this week, though, it's got to be a little bit different because I've been away, at least on this Work Smart Hypnosis podcast. I've been away for about a year. This is the first Make It Rain Monday. This is the first episode back after an extended break. And as you might imagine, I've got a bunch of things to say. So this first Make It Rain Monday, it's going to be a little bit longer than the others because also, here's what else is new with the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast. We are going to be going deeper during the core content that now releases on Thursdays. We're going to go deeper into these conversations. We're going to go deeper into the strategies that really make things work, deeper into the conversations with the guests that I have on this program. And here's why. We're in a different world now. We are in an era now where so many of us are now more conditioned to communicate to each other from one computer screen to another, from one webcam to another. We're also now living in a revolution of artificial intelligence. And the one thing that I've heard from so many of you is that you are hungry for a true connection. So that's right. The Work Smart Hypnosis podcast now is going to go even deeper than ever before. And here's the other thing. I care about the future of this industry. Some of you have reached out and you've expressed some frustrations and some challenges. And here's the thing we all need to remember. The skills that we have as hypnotists, this is what truly can help people to transform their lives. And you know the stories of change that hypnosis can create. People can let go of lifelong fears that they've carried for most of their adult life. They can let go of that fear, sometimes literally in the blink of an eye. People can let go of life-threatening habits that no longer have to hold them back or threaten their health. The perception of physical pain and the emotions of suffering can be dramatically reduced in a rapid amount of time. Stories of being the victim in your life, those old stories that no longer serve you, those old stories now become your new origin story because you have the ability to rewrite your future, and you have the ability to create your own new heroic journey, which is part of why this Make It Rain Monday edition to the podcast is so important. It all goes back to the story of that workshop that I walked out of years ago, and I'm sure that person meant well. I'm not saying this to put them down or speak negatively, though unfortunately, this trend of people sharing things that they shouldn't be sharing, or even worse, selling things that they shouldn't be selling, that hasn't stopped. There are people who are attempting to sell you big promises to grow your business, and when you look closer, you discover that they've never actually run a successful hypnosis business of their own. There are people attempting to convince you that they're the real deal. Things like, here's how you can sell high-ticket services, and when you look closer, you discover that they didn't have a high-ticket business of their own. They didn't have one until they tried to convince you that you could have one too, and that became their first high-ticket business. They were selling untested ideas that they had never actually done themselves. There's people who are trying to sell you software and making big promises that this one software will maximize sales and simplify your business. And when you look closer, you realize they're not even using that software in their business. So we're supposed to trust them that it's the solution to solve all the problems you might be facing if they're not even going to use it themselves. And so all of these things have been weighing heavily on my mind and kind of figuring out, what do you do about it? Because we're also in a world where sometimes pointing out the truth doesn't change people's opinion. And that's a very different era that we also now live in. The world has shifted. And here's what I've realized. If I was to spend more time calling these things out, being the whistleblower, pointing out the negativity, it would just sound like, well, even more negativity. It would sound like even more cynicism, whining. It would just be even more noise. And some of it's necessary, I'll say that, because I've been burned. I've been burned by others who made big promises, and I know a few of you have been burned by others as well. So the more that I thought about it, the more I remembered something that I've done with my clients, the people who came to me for personal change, something that I've done for years, and it kind of just, explains a lot of just how my brain works and how I get things done. And I realized the solution was already there. Stop reminding people of the problems that they used to have. If your client is working to resolve a fear, put your language around the fear in the past tense. My shortcut for explaining this is that you need to distance and dissociate it. It's not that you're going to say to your client, well, your fear of public speaking. No, instead the language becomes a little bit more extended, but listen to this distance and dissociate formula. Instead now, rather than your fear of public speaking, it's now that issue that used to occasionally hold you back. It's now this thing that's in the past. It's this thing that's now behind you. It's no longer that big impossible mountain that's out in front of you. It's not this thing right up on top of you. It's that thing that's now far behind you in the past that doesn't matter anymore. So let's apply this thinking briefly over to habits. Stop reminding your client of the thing they're trying to stop doing. Think about this for a moment. If you spend a full session berating your client about how horrible junk food is. Oh, you shouldn't eat junk food. Junk food damages your body. Junk food messes up your mind. You don't want junk food. Well, you're going to annoy the heck out of your client, and your client is going to be then binging on those foods likely after their session, using that as a mechanism to escape all the stuff you then tried to throw at them. So rather than do that, here's what I found works better. And apply this to how you think about your business. Apply this to your own personal habits that you're trying to change. Those of you that are parents, do this with your kids. Bombard the other person. Bombard yourself. Fill yourself up, fill the other person up so thoroughly with the healthy new behaviors that will change their life. Fill them up so much with the new things they want to be doing, the new things they want to be focusing on, so that now the old problematic things just don't fit, don't have a space to exist anymore. Help them fall in love with doing the new strategy. That's really what it comes down to. Let me explain this with a bit of an out-of-date metaphor. Those old audio cassette tapes, the things that people used to listen to music on before there were streaming services, before we even had compact discs, before we had CDs. The thing about those audio cassette tapes, you could not just go in and delete the content on a cassette tape. No, there was not a button to just click it and say, delete what was there. No, you had to record over it. You had to put something new on top of it. Otherwise, all you could do, the closest you could get was you could record empty sound on top of the old thing. That right there is why Make It Rain Monday is now a part of the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast. And yes, let me point this out. I should have said this earlier. It's okay if you're listening to this episode and it's a day that's not a Monday. It's okay. Listen to it on your own schedule. This is why I am putting it out on Mondays. To briefly sum it all up, rather than point out what's wrong, Rather than say, don't do this, don't do that. Rather than say, can you believe these people are still doing this, and be the negative voice on top of many more negative things that are out there, Make It Rain Monday is now part of this Work Smart Hypnosis podcast, so that intentionally I can help to fill you up with the things to focus on. I can appropriately and intentionally bombard you with where your attention ought to go and what to be doing, so that now the more we're all successful, more of the people who can benefit from our services can easily find you. So every Monday, I'm going to launch a new podcast session on Mondays, Make It Rain Monday, to give you things to do in your hypnosis business that actually work. That right there is going to be the best way to cut out the noise of the empty promises, the incomplete solutions, and, well, the unfortunate lies that have wasted your time, and unfortunately for some of you, have wasted your money. Together, you and I are going to write the new story of the success that we can create together as hypnotists. And hey, everything I've shared with you so far, this has just been the introduction. Keep listening, because your first installment of Make It Rain Monday starts right now. It starts today. I'm Jason Linett. Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast. For longtime listeners of this program, I'm excited to have you back. For new listeners, I'm excited to get to know you more on this journey that we're about to take together. For everybody out there, do this right now. Do this today. Make sure you are subscribed to this show right now. And also, just set aside 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, to go to the listings for this show online and leave your 5-star ratings, leave your reviews, because that's what helps to introduce this program to more people. The more we're all successful, the more we're all successful. So now, well, let's see if I remember how to do this next part. This is the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast, session number 444, Make It Rain Monday. This first Make It Rain Monday really hits the theme that is part of why this is coming to you on Mondays. And recently, for different workshops and events that I've been hosting, we've been making it more of our intention to put some of these events specifically on Monday, so that now you can start your week with the right intention. You can set the tone for your success as early as the first day of the week. So this first installment of Make It Rain Monday, I'm going to speak in terms around the simple concept of time blocking, and really just taking back control of your schedule, taking back control of your time. And I'm going to list off a couple of different strategies that I've done over the years. I don't expect you to be able to take and put into motion every single one of them, but if even just one of them helps you to be more productive, then I've done my part today. So there's a classic quote that's easy to say and also very easy to be then guilty of breaking, which is this one simple statement: failure to plan is planning to fail. And my version of that is that as soon as you take control of your time, as soon as you take control of your schedule, you prevent the ability for your own time and schedule to then take control of you. And at this point, though, because the story that I shared in that extended opening here, I am definitely not just going to speak in hypotheticals or big picture concepts. Instead, I'm going to break down a few very specific things that I personally either have done or continue to do that you can consider, you can model, and more importantly, you can make your own. So there's a quick story, though, before I dive into it, that this was at a conference a number of years ago, and I was teaching a couple of methods specifically around linguistics. What do you say in your videos so that people then are drawn to you? They see the value in hiring you. How do you basically create the right content so that then, as people discover you, they then connect the dots and say that, wow, you are the person I need to hire. So I was breaking down the whole concept of what to say in those videos and such. And someone at the event, she raises her hand and she says, I love every bit of this. This is what I needed to hear. This is what I need more than any technique to help my clients, every, therapeutic method that's out there. However, here's my problem. I have a full schedule. I see too many clients. I don't have time to do that. And there's two answers to this. The first one is the snarky, sort of arrogant one, which is that, well, at one point, I didn't have that stuff either. And because I put the time aside to do it, that's why I've now got these things. So everybody starts somewhere. So it's okay if you're recording your first video. It's okay if you're doing something for the first time. Equivalent of this, I've got more than like 40,000 people on email lists that if I wanted to broadcast a message, I could click a few buttons, I could send that message out, and potentially 40,000 people would see it that day. Now, you might not yet have that. And then again, neither did I in the early days of my business. The first person who subscribed to my mailing list was just me. We all start somewhere. So her story was, I see too many people. I don't have time for that. And just here's one statement I will make that has been one that's helped me over the years. You need to invest time now to get the future that you want tomorrow. So it's that ability to set aside time right now so that you can have what you want in the future. It's the same as investing money. The same is true for investing your time. So let me now break down a few of these time blocking principles. And again, if you use them all, that's awesome. If you use just one of them and it helps you, I've done my job here. So first of all, let's talk in terms of taking ownership of the time that you would see clients. Or if you're in whatever kind of business working with people one-to-one, it used to be that I would take people whenever they wanted because I was early enough in my career, I was hungry, I needed the money, and that worked. Well, let me put it this way. That worked until it didn't. And then what really had to happen was I had to take control of my schedule. So take the example of what I'm about to say, and don't get too crazy on this one here, because if you hear this and go, oh, that doesn't work for me, I can't do this, you've missed the point. Instead, listen to what I'm about to share, and then you might have a small modification to this, and I'll give you a few just to make it easy. I'm in my office, and I see my clients Monday through Friday. The first of the day is a 10 a.m. The last of the day is a 4 p.m. So I do a 10, a 12, a 2, and a 4. What works best for you? And you heard me kind of go into the mode of speaking to you as if you were my client. But listen to what I did there. I completely mapped out, here's when I work. Here's when I see clients. I'm in the office Monday through Friday. The first of the day that I see of appointments is a 10 a.m. The last that I do is a 4 p.m. I see a 10, a 12, a 2, or a 4. What works best for you? And a quick side note to this, it's not that my sessions were taking 2 hours. It's just that that was the timing that I offered. Now, here's what that did for me. What it did was that then I had other moments during my schedule that then I had control over. So specifically what I did in between clients, what I did for other days of the week, perhaps with an involving family or other projects that I was doing. And occasionally, well, let me just put this disclaimer out here first. You can't be a match for everybody in the world. There are people who legitimately, they need to see you 6 p.m. at Sunday night. And now you as the business owner, well, let me reveal something today that I was planning for later, but let's just do it right now. As hypnotists, we all know the term client-centered hypnosis, and that's great. That's what I do too. But listen to this now. Here's an update. We all can be people who run a practitioner-centered business that happens to provide client-centered hypnosis. Yeah, I know. Some of you needed to hear that today. You could run a practitioner-centered business that happens to provide client-centered hypnosis. Because, well, you can't be everything to everybody all of the time. And quite openly, if you're that person who only can see me on a Sunday night at 6:30 p.m., you're going to do great work with someone else. Because just those are hours I don't do. And those are often not even hours that I'd go, well, it'd be this other price instead. I don't tend to do that to people. But listen to what I'm doing here. I am mapping out, these are my hours, and this is what's available. Now, for the yeah, but audience that might be out there, there's occasionally the question about, well, what if this, what if this, what if that? And I want you to hear this two-part exchange that I will play both roles artistically here. I had this happen many times over the years. I had this happen recently, which was the person goes, well, I really need it to be a weekday, either Tuesday or Wednesday at 5:30. And then I go into automatic mode. Okay, well, I'm in the office Monday through Friday, and I do a 10, a 12, a 2, or a 4. What works best for you? Well, what do you have on like Tuesday or Wednesday around 5:30? I go into repeat mode. Well, I'm in the office Monday through Friday, and I do a 10, a 12, a 2, or a 4. what works best for you. Now, in this case, sometimes they'd go away. And if they went away and if they found someone who could do that specific time and that's what they needed, I wish them the best. They'd also very frequently come back and go, hey, I cleared my schedule. What Wednesday could you do at 4 o'clock? And now we're in connection here. But again, if you don't take control of your calendar, you'll never have control over your future success. Getting this calendar thing, getting this time blocking thing dialed in, this is what changed a lot of stuff for me. So take that, modify it, make it your own. Related to this, I also then began to intentionally block time in my calendar. So a few examples of this. For specific days of the week, no one can schedule with me until 1 p.m. For other days of the week, I am done, or at least no one can schedule with me after 2 p.m. And the whole reason behind this was that I had to eventually go into my calendar and block time off for exactly what I talked about earlier. Here's where I'm going to create videos. Here's where I'm going to build new projects. Here's where I'm going to record this specific podcast. But the key is when you do that, that time has to be sacred. And this is a big part as to why years ago I started using calendar software because, things like Calendly or Acuity, because then if you couldn't see that time was available, you couldn't book it. But it also meant that I had to police myself and be able to tell myself that now, okay, that Thursday time slot where I don't book anything or no one can schedule with me until after 1 p.m. The reason why is because in the morning on that day, this is what I'm doing. And then we've all been there before. The client calls up and now we start to think to ourselves, hey, this person will pay me on that day. I can move that. And I'll call myself out on this. There are projects that I've thought of that I have not yet done because I've been guilty of that exact thing, of moving important things. So when you block off time, make that sacred, make that something specific that you do on those days. Related to this, a third strategy would be that for big events, so if I'm running workshops, if I'm doing a specific promotion, if I'm doing an event in person, it's that as early as I can, at minimum, 2 to 3 months in advance, that's when I'm going to go into my calendar, and that's when I'm going to mark out when that event is going to be. So that now it's no longer this one of these days things, it's no longer a someday goal. Instead, that big project that I want to roll out, that's going to happen on this specific date 2 or 3 months from now. The benefit of that is that then I can start to reverse engineer my schedule. And also now I can start to focus on exactly what is important. So this relaunch of the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast, as a quick example, this is something that was ironed out in my mind probably September or October last year. And in the figuring out of the relaunch and then deciding it was going to be in January 2026, I also then realized for that to really be done correctly, here's these other things that then needed to occur, some updates to the website, some changes to how I record the show as an example. Those were things that then became the important priorities. Do you ever catch yourself where you convince yourself all the things you need to be doing rather than the one thing that's really important? So this start with the end in mind and reverse engineer your calendar type thing. Plan big events 2 to 3 months in advance. So go into your calendar right now. Everybody do this right now. Pause the recording here. What's something you want to do? Put it on your calendar 3 months from now. Is it that thing that you've been telling yourself for a while? Eventually I'll do this. Well, put it in your calendar now. Even better, Jason@worksmarthypnosis.com. Email me. Tell me what that thing is. Tell me the date you're going to do it, because I'll follow up with you. I'm going to check in with you on this one here. Related to this now, fourth strategy. I'm going to use the term that's been popularized by this. There's actually a book written about this by the same term. It's called Deep Work, which, by the way, this is Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast, session number 444. For all of the episodes, it's easy to find the show notes for the session. worksmarthypnosis.com/the number of the show. So in this case, worksmarthypnosis.com/444. That's the number of this one here. And we'll give you a link to this book by Cal Newport on the topic of deep work. It's a very simple concept. You're going to get the basics of it right here. It's that we really are not wired well to be people who multitask. All the research around multitasking eventually shows that there's a breaking point. And really, as people, we have like a specific number of hours, sort of a budget of focus that we have each and every day. So this kind of combines back with that intentional time blocking thing that I talked about earlier. It's that I am going to plan for moments of deep work, where here's what I'm doing, and I'm not going to wait until the moment of motivation and hope I'm ready, or I'll do this when I'm ready. Instead, I'm going to put myself in the mode of actually being in the right mental space, physical space, emotional space to then do the thing. And if you need strategies to do that, you're a hypnotist. I'll give you an easy one here. If I need to create video, well, a big part of what I do is also consulting other hypnotists on the work that they've done. So it's a bit of a side effect that I get, because when I get to do a video review of something you've created, it gets me into the mode of speaking into my microphone, talking to my camera, and presenting something. So that's my little shortcut to then get myself into the right productivity mindset space so that then I can be in the right place to then do that necessary deep work. So again, check out that book. It's a great read. The audiobook is also fantastic. This next point in terms of time blocking is one that I've kind of already addressed so far, so I'll keep it brief. Production time. Set aside time to grow the next big thing. I wouldn't have had this Work Smart Hypnosis training company if years ago I didn't set aside time away from Virginia Hypnosis to build what I have now. I wouldn't have had time to build the, tech services and build out consulting company that's now attract pre-sold clients if I didn't scale back certain elements of Virginia Hypnosis and then eventually Work Smart Hypnosis either. So whatever that time is, and this is worth reiterating, the time you set aside to do projects, as soon as you put it in there, which this is a side note here, this popped up in a workshop we were running today. I would love to be the person who can like color code things, but I can't, because then if I start to color code, I'm going to be one to go, well, this should be the dark green. This should be the light green. This should be the orange. This should be the friendly red. This should be the evil red. This should be the light purple. This should be the Work Smart Hypnosis purple. And then I get overloaded trying to figure out the color coding. Instead, now I have one piece of color coding in my calendars. And as you might have guessed, it's the dark purple that I use for everything else in my world. If it's that purple, that means that time is sacred. And yes, you can do this in Microsoft Outlook, Google Calendar, Apple Calendars, everywhere. Don't get caught up in the software. Just block the time off. Yours doesn't have to be purple. But as soon as you've done it, that time is sacred. You do not give up that time slot. The same as you've had that experience where maybe you had to wait for a doctor's appointment and it was like a month and a half wait. That was not going to be the appointment where then you thought to yourself, I don't feel like it. I'll do it another day. Versus like you're about to go see a movie and now it's raining outside and you don't want to drive in the rain and you then think, I'll wait when it's on one of the streaming services. No, set aside time right now for your future success. Make that time sacred. And then to bring this home, I've got one more strategy for you. And this is one that I'm a little ashamed to admit I've only been doing in the last 3 or 4 years. However, it has been a massive game changer for me, which is for whatever I do, I set a predictive time limit. Let me say that again. This is my term for it, at least as of this week. I call it a predictive time limit, which is where I take an honest look at the project. I look at the thing that I'm about to do, and then I make my best assessment based upon my previous experience, such as I can get this project to a good enough version in 45 minutes. Some of you already know where I'm about to go with this because you've done this too. You've gotten yourself swept up into a project, and then it's the thing that you then spent like 7 or 8 hours just getting way too obsessive about the details, and you've theoretically wasted your entire day on the tiniest details, the smallest pieces that really aren't going to create a big impact in what you do. This right here has been one of my biggest breakthroughs in my own productivity, which is that I'm going to look at a project, give it my best, honest, personal assessment. I could get this thing done in 45 minutes. I'm going to look at my clock. Right now, as I'm recording this, it's 3 o'clock. And then I'm going to set a timer on my phone, an alarm to go off at 3:45, because it could take longer, but it shouldn't. Now, in most cases, though, what I'll actually do is still give myself a little bit of a grace period, because what I'm doing here is I'm carving out time in my schedule to then be productive and get that thing done, but don't spend more time on it than what's necessary. And then I'll set maybe one more, like a snooze alarm type thing. I'll hit my little snooze function, or I'll just set another timer for 5 minutes to then do whatever final cleanup is necessary, so that now it's at a place where it's good enough. And if it's really important, and if it really needs more effort, I'll then come back to it later. So find a good enough version, find a good enough stopping point. And by doing so now, you're going to focus your time on what really is important, what really drives your success better as a person, as a business owner, as a hypnotist. And that's what I'm doing here with all of you right now. I am carving out time in my schedule to share these Make It Rain Monday sessions with you. So one final question. What changes are you going to make to your calendar today so that you can build the tomorrow you want right now? And seriously, do it right now. Do it today. Don't delay on this. Don't put this off further. Take a few moments and make at least one change to your calendar right now. Because your clients, they're going to thank you for it. Thank you for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast with Jason Linett. The more we're all successful, the more we're all successful. I've made that statement for years. It's why I do this show. And here is one thing that you can do today to help do your part. Go to worksmarthypnosis.com/podcast. Go there and make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast platform. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you'd leave a review. Your feedback helps other hypnosis professionals find the show. Subscribe and share your thoughts today at worksmarthypnosis.com/podcast.